the story of the week that had me thinking more Waco, but just at a smaller scale.
Ruby Ridge.
Maybe Ruby Ridge actually is a better example. I'm a simple man. I've never worked in law enforcement, but I have to think instinctively. If you can't arrest a mobility, what's the word I'm looking for? Mobility impaired 78-year-old man with a SWAT team and everything, you can't do it without killing the individual. You're not doing your job properly, or possibly cynically, you're doing your job exactly as you're supposed to have gone in and do it. This guy, so I forget how old he is, 76, give or take, in his 70s.
I think he was 75, Air Force veteran.
Veteran.
Severely, basically disabled.
Yeah.
Couldn't even walk up, 2 blocks to church, had to drive a car to get there. Was physically not functioning and took care of his older blind son. So, I mean, he was basically homebound most of the time.
And not to make, this is not for nothing, but overweight, rather like mobility impaired is the point here.
I mean, literally struggled to walk.
And had been posting stuff on Facebook. We're not going to repeat it, because whether or not the posts are objectively improper and potentially even illegal, that it escalates with an FBI raid. I don't know. I think was it early morning? I think it was
6 a.m. 6 a.m. The FBI sent a massive SWAT team in, busted down, tried to bust down his door, then busted down, broke through his window, and started shooting in mass and executed him on the spot.
How do you make sense of it, except to say that this is like, I'm going to go with Jack Posobiec. I think it's Posobiec's interpretation. This is deliberate to send a message to basically to intimidate anybody. Get on the outs, do something stupid, and give us an excuse, and we'll exercise it. What's your take on this?
Well, especially what's concerning here, supposedly they were there just to execute a search warrant.
Well, they executed it, right?
They had apparently gone, visited the day before or two, and he had apparently said negative things to them at the door. Here's the thing. If they had clear evidence that he was a true threat, all that evidence would have been out right away. But is that they would have had it ready to go when they executed the search warrant. And definitely when they killed him, they would have been spinning that story fast. Instead, nothing came out. They had a tight lid, and they still have a tight lid, which means they're trying to make up their story as we speak. That the rogue FBI agents involved in this are trying to script a tale and figure out what evidence would impeach them, what evidence can they hide, what evidence can they manufacture, because it's come out that they had him under investigation for months. Well, if that's the case, then they would know what his neighbors said about him, which was that he was a guy who couldn't move around at all, but was a total teddy bear who just said stupid stuff online, that nobody took his threat seriously at all, that nobody who looked at him would that he was the kind of guy who built ramps for people. He was a woodworking guy. He was an Air Force vet. He wasn't one of these. To be honest with you, he wasn't as hard ass as the Weavers. I mean, he wasn't one of those guys. He wasn't preparing for the apocalypse. He was, he was a keyboard warrior. He was a guy who got on and said stupid stuff online, and that was it. Now, so that increasingly they knew, given his fear and paranoia, that by showing up in mass, that he would probably respond at some level in a hostile manner. They could use as a pretext to summarily execute him. I mean, it looks to me like a summary execution of an individual that's met for two purposes: one, intimidation, and the other, provocation. The intimidation aspect is to get people, you better not say anything bad about Biden, or maybe we'll come knock down your door and shoot you in the head. The other act is what Ruby Ridge and Waco also really were. Also, people forget the Cuban incident that happened, in the 90s too, where they took the kid back at, gunpoint, all that, back to Cuba, etc. But the big ones were Ruby Ridge and Waco. Same sniper, by the way, involved in both of them. So that guy managed to walk without any prosecution. They tried to prosecute him briefly in Idaho and then step back. Only reason why Weaver didn't go down for everything and get railroaded was because Jerry Spence took his case. And Jerry was one of the best at doing political cases, and he got full acquittals. And for those that don't remember, I mean, they shot the mother, Weaver's wife, a mother, while she was holding her 10-month-old daughter.
Like sniper, it was not an accident. And They shot the Weaver's kid when they was confronted.
After they summarily executed one of their dogs, and that's what triggered everything to begin with. Man, they were just picking him up, by the way, on a bail warrant. on a not non-appearing on a minor charge, firearm charge.
Yeah,
So, I
I
mean,
read.
it was just the same sniper magically appeared at Waco that precipitated everything that happened at Waco. Then they covered it up in mass.
Robert,
Uh,
they're following this guy for an extended period of time. They know what he
they know he
looks
never
like.
gets out. They know there can't be any specific plans. They know that all his comments on social media are under his own name. They can see what his neighbors see, that he's just an ordinary schmuck who talks
Well,
big on the internet.
eh,
Compare this to Madonna going to DC and talking about blowing up the White House. Compare this to Kathy Griffin putting up a bloody dead head of Donald Trump. Compare this to the plays they put on in New York City celebrating the execution of Donald Trump. Compare this to Snoop Dogg shooting Donald Trump in the head in a rap video, or Eminem saying the same. All of them had more means and more provocative threats than this old guy made.
the
So the one question is, did he even meet true threat standard? The most famous true threats case involves threats to the president. An African American man stepped up at a anti-war Vietnam War protest and said, if they give me a gun, the first person I'm going to put in my sights is LBJ. And the Supreme Court said, that's just political hyperbole. You can't prosecute somebody for that. It has to be a serious, basically, it has to be imminently possible. It has to be a true threat. Either it has to be imminent or seriously possible. If it's not seriously possible, it's not a true threat. It's just some idiot yipping.
Well, some people would argue that some of his Facebook posts probably even if it's arguable, close enough, it'll get you into trouble. The FBI's argument is he had the means because he had the weapon that not the weapon, he had the firearm that he said he had in one of his Facebook posts. But my point is, like, if they're
But
following
even
this guy,
those, a lot of those that was not. I mean, a true threat should have been, I'm going to boom, boom, boom. Not hey, welcome, Mr. Idiot. I have a gun. That's too vague. That should not fit the definition of true threat, because otherwise, anybody asserting anything about a gun will now be called a true threat. It's just too. I mean, that's, put it this way. Did he say something worse than the guy that the U.S. Supreme Court said, I'm going to put LBJ in my scope as soon as I get my gun?
well, I'll take the one step further. I'll say, look, even if he did, they're following him, they're tracking him, they're surveilling him. They know that he's impaired. They know that he doesn't get around. They know that if he leaves his house, they're going to
he's
see
not
it.
a high risk, right? I mean, there's two different issues. One is, did he fit the federal criminal definition of the statute? And my point is, it's not even clear he did. That I kept looking for. I was like, okay, what's what escalated this guy? Well, what may here? I mean, to give an example, every year there are thousands of people who send in letters and make phone calls saying they're going to kill the president. They don't go do search warrant raids on any of them, for the most part. So I was like, what was it about this guy? I was like, one, he's not doing it anonymously. He's doing it under his own name. He's the easiest person in the world to track. That tells you right away it's probably not serious. Second, and again, that's the requirement, serious. Second, these statements are just too vague. If saying, I'm going to put LBJ in my scopes is, according to the U.S. Supreme Court, not prosecutable because it's political hyperbole, then saying what this guy said is political hyperbole. It needs to be, I'm going to boom, boom, not I wish death on somebody. Even that doesn't count. That's why Madonna, I mean, that's, even though, again, or anything he said, is it that much worse than what Snoop Dogg, Eminem, Madonna, Kathy Griffin, the New York Play Theater people did, or a random statement any day of the week against Trump on Twitter? I mean, these people were threatening his death all the time, hoping for his death all the time. It still wasn't considered a true threat because of the Watts decision of 1969. And so my view is they don't even have that. They definitely don't have serious imminent risk when they put him under investigation, such that he needed to be a high-profile target. And then you get to the third issue. Well, did they really need to execute a search warrant? Did they need to execute it in this manner? They knew this was going to happen, and they just basically wanted a pretext to murder the guy? What exactly happened and how it went down? Why wasn't it handled in entirely a different manner? It sounds like classic excessive force. So my guess is they'll claim he had a gun. Maybe they'll claim he fired. But here's the other thing. If any of that really happened, we would have had that story right out of the gate.
Well, I mean, for goodness sake, they have. I mean, the FBI is going to be wearing body cam footage when they or body cams when they do this.
Probably not. By the way, if they did, I guarantee you it's gone now. I mean, because again, if he had done any of these things, we would have seen it right away. We would have seen it right away. I'm sure there was somebody with footage in there, but my guess is, but the fact that we didn't told me, okay, they just went in and shot the guy, and then they're going to make up a story later, and they knew they had an easy pretext for it. And so now this is a reminder to everybody out there: don't say stupid stuff online. I've been saying that for a long time. These people try to yip. I kick people off the board when they say stupid things, and no refund because that's a violation of the policies. My only rule is it's okay to be stupid. It's okay to be a criminal. It's not okay to be both.